Hi, this is R.N. Bhaskar from BKBB, which is an acronym for Bhaskar Key Business Market. This is a channel that brings you policy analysis, stories, and conversations. But that's every week. The program right now is News Behind the News. We pick up a few headlines that we think are relevant and then talk to you about it. And yes, three reminders. In short, please click the subscribe button, click the like button, and most important, please tell your friends about it. We need a larger audience. I have with me my co-anchors, Katya. Welcome, Katya.
Hi, sir.
It's good to have you here. And the Anurag, great seeing you again. Thank you, Anurag. And we have the following titles for today's discussion. The titles are the first one on mass demonstration against Trump on Military Day. The second one is an energy crisis, energy war in the offing. And the third one is some EV players are demanding a change in PLI policy. How fair is the request? Okay, let's take the first one. We normally don't talk about mass uprisings unless there are many layers to that story. Yesterday was Military Day. The dates change depending on time zones. And not surprisingly, Trump kept it on his birthday. Trump has been imperious in his dealing with the universities, in dealing with tariffs, dealing with immigration, and this time even the Iran-Israel war. Trump knew about it, supplied weapons, and that's why not involved. And the reason why America is down is because it has participated in war after war after war. The biggest decimator of people in the world has been America. And the biggest assassinations in the world is Israel. Both work hand in glove. And now that Israel is getting pounded, it won't be surprising if America says, we are not involved, and Israel tries to use the nuclear bomb. And that is what many analysts are talking about. America's disdain for everybody except itself is tremendous. And in America, Trump's disdain for everybody except himself is also there. The world is going through a crisis which could actually destroy it. The number of seconds to midnight on the nuclear clock is inching forward. Trump is disregardful. Apparently, he's concerned. One doesn't know how genuine that concern is. Today, the only two sober voices in the world are Russia and Iran and China. A marked contrast with the hypocrisy of the Western world. Let's see where this takes us. But I thought I should mention why this uprising is a very important one because Americans as people don't like us. The White House may love it. And the disconnect is getting wider, as wide as during the Vietnam War. Anyway, that's the end of today's my story. But let's go to the next one, which is equally interesting and connected to the Middle East war, and that's Katya's story. Katya, could we have you?
So there is more bad news. Probably could be an energy war that's going to happen from here on. We've seen the gas war start with Russia and Ukraine. This time it's going to be an all-out energy war with Iran blocking the ways for oil to go through. And this actually, on Friday, Brent crude had jumped 7%. But as we speak, right now the oil prices have already gone up, rallied by 5%, which is very surprising because in the last few years oil prices have been subdued in spite of production cuts, in spite of many things. Many issues were taken up by OPEC, etc. That is because of slow growth in the economy, but that is not holding up. So if you look at it, if we go back a little, Russia-Ukraine war has also pushed up commodity prices hugely. So when oil prices go up, a lot of other commodities tend to follow suit. and that makes production extremely difficult and expensive, and it's very very bad news in an economy which is slowing down. Which means inflation is added on top of slow growth is actually a very very dangerous thing. In fact, one expert who was talking to Bloomberg was saying that it's a bad shock at a bad time for the global economy. We could have done without it. And every time oil crosses, if at all it goes over $100 a barrel, which it has gone many times, it adds 1% inflation to advanced economies. And may I remind you, it's for advanced economies. For developing economies, it's even more hit. And for us, who is a net oil importer with a lot of extremely high imports, it is actually very very bad, very very bad sign for us. So and because our inflation is just about to cool down, and if core inflation has been stable for many years now, and if that adds on, it is going to be extremely devastating for economies such as India. What do you think, sir? How it's going
You,
to play out?
you are right, Katya. And Israel wants these oil prices to flare up, others they would not have attacked Iran's refinery, and Iran in turn attacked Haifa and all the oil and energy installations of Israel. The death toll in Israel is staggering, and air defenses in Iran have made sure that no more missiles from Israel have landed in their territory. You're right, this is going to cause inflation, it's going to cause more global nervousness. And just watch, the mass demonstration in the US will become even wilder if oil prices go further. They're already racked by inflation, by immigration, and if the oil prices go up, if energy prices, Americans love their cars and they don't want to pay more. So you can expect the demonstrations in America to actually spread. You're right. It's a war in the offing. Okay. We go to Anurag's story. Anurag, could we have you?
Good morning. The PLI scheme for the auto sector launched in 2021 offers incentives of 13 to 16% to promote domestic manufacturing, which also includes EVs. But however, the scheme's eligibility criteria have excluded several electric two-wheeler startups, including Ather Energy, despite achieving a significant market share. Months after Ather's IPO, the CEO Tarun Mehta discussed in an interview with Business Standard the concerns about a non-level playing field between established automotive companies and new entrants. The industry data shows that legacy auto manufacturers like Bajaj, TVS, and even Ola, who have larger financial reserves and existing production capacity, have been able to access PLI incentives more easily, whereas startups which often drive innovation but lack scale or a prior track records have been left out. And as per the data from the Society of Manufacturers of EVs, the electric two-wheeler segment grew 30% year on year in financial year 25, but growth has slowed in recent quarters due to policy uncertainties and subsidy reductions. Ather Energy, one of the major players in the electric two-wheeler space right now, reported a 29% increase in operating revenue for the last quarter, but continues to operate at a loss with an annual net losses of 812 crores. Other competitors, including Ola Electric and TVS, have also expanded market share, benefiting from the PLI incentives and aggressively pricing strategies. The PLI scheme's design has sparked a debate. Industry experts argue that incentives should be targeted at startups and companies investing heavily in research and R&D, rather than established firms that may have invested in EVs regardless of the scheme. And others point out the large companies have the resources to scale up production rapidly, which aligns with the government's goal of increasing domestic output. The withdrawal of central and state subsidies for electric vehicles from next year, combined with the rising input costs and supply chain disruptions like the current rare earth issue, has increased pressure on the manufacturers. And the reliance on imported components, along with the global price volatility, has increased the geopolitical risks as well. Now that the electric two-wheeler market is growing rapidly, what are the implications for the broader EV ecosystem if policy framework are not revisited to address these gaps? Or is it fair to maintain the same scheme for a broader prospect? What's your take on this, sir?
Anurag, you're right. It's a very, very valid question, a valid report. My only problem is when startups start complaining of policy. Why did they get into the business if they didn't know the policy? And why make these statements just before an IPO is planned? One, one is led to believe that the posturing is not genuine, it's aimed for a different reason. Point one. Point two, the entire EV sector is going to be hit very badly with the ban on rare earths magnets. India's defense production is also going to be affected. So is USA. The report in USA says they've got only 90 days stock to replenish the warships. The crisis is great, and China wants to hold on to them. I think personally, it will hold on to them because they do not want to encourage the war machinery that America has so that Israel doesn't benefit. And in this geopolitical situation, EVs are going to be hurt. I don't think any policy change will remedy the situation unless India gets into a dialogue with China. And that is it. But thank you. Great report. Thank you very much for the report. And that brings me to the end of today's session. It's a new week, and I wish you a wonderful week ahead. But before I go ahead, my usual reminder, the subscribe button, the click button, and please tell your friends about us. We need a larger audience. And that takes me to the most important part, and that's the reactions from you. There's one reaction already. With the Third World War looming large, why has the world not called for an emergency meeting? There was an emergency meeting at the United Nations. As usual, Israel, USA cast its veto. But the clamor is growing. Unfortunately, India's bull is not the most responsible one at the SCO meeting, which criticized Israel for attacking Iran. India abstained. We take a moral ground in many areas, but when it comes to actually blaming Israel or blaming USA for something that is legitimate, like mass murder, like killings, like attacking a sovereign territory, we keep quiet. That is sad. But yes, there should be an emergency meeting. I do not know what it would serve because the UN does not have any powers of its own. And that's unless America is brought to its heel. And that is why the mass protests may be the only way. Okay, that takes me to the second question. And that's again to Katya. What should India do if there's an energy war coming along?
You
Katya,
should, the answer is as good as any. There's nothing we can do when oil prices at $100 a barrel. Many times India could do nothing other than give out oil bonds and make sure the under recoveries of oil marketing companies are controlled. There is nothing we have to do. We have to grin and bear it. The least they can do, they probably roll back some of the excise duties that they've levied on when oil went really down to take advantage it. Maybe they'll actually do something like that, if at all, if they want to reduce the burden. Otherwise, there's nothing Indian government can do. Maybe switch off the lights, maybe.
well, one possibility the government can pursue is trying to talk to Russia, Iran, and other countries like Azerbaijan to import
Mhm.
oil from there. But we have already banned Azerbaijan. The cheap sources of oil and gas we are cancelling. It's stupidity.
And Iran, I doubt if they'll open any dialogue with us because Israel has supported India in the India-Pakistan
Yes.
conflict. So,
So we've actually got ourselves in a mess.
mess, a lot of mess, yes, sir.
But thank you very much. That's a good insight. And yes, now let's go ahead to one more question about Anurag. Should one invest in EV companies? We are not an investment company. a platform. We believe that every market has its crisis. EVs have a crisis. The public wants EVs. They want cheaper, cleaner motorcycles and two-wheelers. But whether you should invest or not invest, I raise my hands. And that, in a way, brings me to the end of today's session. And have a wonderful weekend. And may your day be as successful as ever. Take care. Good luck.